Hi everyone and welcome. This is Varley at Lavender Sky Panther with you on Friday, January 17th, 2025. This is Sky Show number 205 called Look Up, Cloaking Craft Plus in Florida, Michigan, Australia, Aotearoa, which is New Zealand. And this is part 7 of an 8-part series just showing highlights from things that I posted on my YouTube community page. And this particular episode is covering things I posted in part of 2024. There will be one more part coming on the heels of this. Probably I'll launch that in a couple days. I'm feeling, for whatever reason, not urgency, but let's just say higher motivation than usual to get this 8th part out by or on Sunday. So Sunday in my part of the world here in Miami, Florida. So that's what I'm going to aim for. Okay, and also I just want to let everyone know that even though this is going to be a pre-recorded show that I'm launching, I will be in the live chat. However, if anybody has any questions or comments, either on this Sky Show or previous Sky Shows, I'll even expand that if anybody has any questions or comments on crystals or any other kind of cryptid topics. We'll just do like a free-for-all if there's any items of interest. And otherwise, if there are none, then just enjoy the show. All right, let's get into this. Oops, I hopped ahead. So here we go. We're going to start off with this. I'm going to use the cursor. If you can follow the arrow, I'll put it over here, making a little circle so you can see it. So we're going to go up to the upper left-hand corner. So this is the original photo, and then I do an enhancement progression. And if you're new to this channel, let me skip back a step. If you're new or returning to this channel, I give you a heartfelt thanks for being here, whether you can, join in for the whole show or any part of it. If you're new, what I do is do sky observations, also other nature observations. In previous shows, I also cover spiritual things, so you can have a look around at some of my previous shows when you have a moment. Otherwise, I did mention I'm going to be doing highlights, kind of like the best of things that I've posted on the community page as I start out the beginning of this 8-part series. And then actually as we wind down or wind it up at the end, I think I've just included everything that I posted. So just to do a recap. But anyway, I want to say that if you're new to the channel, what I do is just take my camera phone out and take some pictures. So I'll say when it's an original, just coming straight from the camera. And then I do enhancements, which is simply taking that photo and editing attributes within the photo, such as brightness, color saturation, and contrast, things of that nature. And I just tweak the levels here and there and do a little progression. So we start off from the original and then do a little enhancement, do a little bit more, until we start to really pull out some very interesting things. So in this example, I just noticed that whatever this cloud mass, we'll call it cloud in quotes. And when I say that, I'm referring to, yes, absolutely, there's cloaking craft in there. Because in this example in the upper left, that is not a natural cloud. No way. And as we do some enhancement, we start to see different objects pop out. And I'm actually going to just skip over here to this number 3 example. Because here we start to see a dart shape. It's a symmetrical object with, clean lines showing an actual shape. That one's going off in this direction while we have something going level like an arrow coming out this direction. Another little thing, flying off at this direction, something at this direction. So we've got a lot of different vectors. Never mind that this overall shape is a rough triangular form. There's also something happening up here overhead that's very strange, and things happening off in the background. The short answer to this is nothing, or some of this is nothing in here is looking like a natural cloud. Also, the fact that this is so low in altitude really gets, you should get people head scratching. Here too, over here where my cursor is, that's a pure triangular form. So what I'm saying is this is a cluster of all kinds of different craft that travel kind of in a bigger quote-unquote cloud mass to more or less look cloaked. But if you're people like me, or if you've been following my channel at all and doing observations on your own, or have just done them on your own from the beginning, you know right away there's nothing normal about that scene and that there's cloaking craft happening. I'm going to move along for now because there's a lot of really great examples coming up. But actually before I do, you start to see other little weird anomalies and things happening around the edges. There's like a pure circle here, things that start to look like machine parts. Here, the more you look, this is actually the part of a bigger pointed elliptical form. And with any of these photos that I'm going to present today, I invite you on your own time to definitely dig around in these photos, zoom in on your own, really study them. As I always say, the more you look at any of these photos, the more you're going to see and find in them. And this happens to me routinely. I could not look at these photos for a long time. I come back in like I'm coming now, and I will see even more things or see things in a different way even. It's just how these things work. So anyway, I'm going to move along. I just was expressing here that there's just a lot of creativity in here going on. Okay, here's another example of really low altitude clouds. The lower right hand corner is the original photo, just walking in a suburban neighborhood, and look how low this cloud quote unquote cover is. Going to the left is a little more enhancement down here, and I start to see some rigid triangular forms, even with like two parallel legs, trailing behind these things. And they're all lined up next to each other. So when we get to the upper right hand corner, that's the most enhancement done. Look at, we see pure, straight, triangular, presumably more right angle triangle forms. Here, something else well hidden up in here and down here. So again, we see it's like two legs trailing the back. So I'm going to say these are cloaking craft where they're heading in the direction going from left to right, and that the front or the bow of these ships would be to the right and the stern to the left, if you will. All right, here is also an area in Miami. I'm going to just say these are all Miami unless I say otherwise, like North Florida or any of the other states that I referred to in the title page. So here's looking to the west on a otherwise somewhat clear afternoon. The lower right-hand corner is the original. Now, even though it looks faded like that, to the naked eye, it actually was a truer blue. So sometimes the camera just kind of muddies things out a bit because this quote-unquote light source here, I'm going to call that an artificial sun or solar simulator that sits in front of our true sun, which is somewhere in the back and clouded out or particulated out. I covered this phenomenon in my earlier, 5 shows plus, sprinkled throughout my shows. But anyway, this white glaring, whatever it is, tends to, also help toward making our true blue skies look more muddied out. And so anyway, as we move to the left with enhancement, things pop out a little bit bluer. But the main thing to note here is in the upper right-hand corner. Look at this. This is not a regular condensation trail coming from behind an airplane. We have specific shapes, and this is a little lens flare over here. But this has a symmetrical form, and look how straight these lines are. And no plane would fly across the sky releasing some kind of condensation trail in this form, and down to the extent that it would not do this. And this is coincidentally, in quotes, more or less parallel with this. That's really hard to do. And this isn't just some kind of exhibition flying by jets. There was nothing of the kind in the area. In fact, I was in this area for a while before I saw this, and you heard no planes overhead whatsoever. So this is rather curious, we'll just say. And I will say that no, this is not a condensation trail. I don't even think it's a chemical filled trail or a chemtrail. I think this is some other kind of artistic designs done by Orb or other craft or just kind of pops up into our dimension. Anyway, see what you think there if you have any thoughts on that. All right, here I just say as we quote-unquote see deeper with helpful photo enhancement tools and zoom-ins, cloaking craft and objects emerge above the quote-unquote sun at sunset. Now this is 7:30 looking west from my vantage point. The lower left-hand corner is the original. We'll move up to just see with more enhancement. There's something big happening up here. This is not a typical cloud structure, or natural one anyway. And then moving up further, there's just weird little bits and pieces and things start to emerge. I have question marks all over the place. So when we go up to the upper right, I'm looking in at this area. So I'm especially pointing right here. And I'm pointing at like this thing, this kind of mass. There's just weird little bits and pieces happening in here. Like this is a symmetrical triangle where you look where my cursor is. There's stuff going on back here with true holes. Stuff with shadow behind it that look like objects. And even this whole thing, it looks like a ring, with symmetrical pieces, sloping off of it. I don't know what this is. It's something at the end of this little arm, but these are straight, like stick-like things. And then this is a hole, and it looks like something's emerging out of it. The other key thing is to look at the color signatures. They're all over the place. We've got white, indigos, but then we have orange and gold and things all in the same proximity. Even back here, there's another ring-like structure. So something's going on all over the place in the scene. This is one of those that I invite you to look further. You might want to look down at the center of the page. Gives you a little, perspective. This one's really blown up and zoomed in up here. But down below, we're a little more removed. And you can just see there's some weird objects here cloaking in this kind of thick particulate mist. And there's some other weird object happening off in the background. It's just a little dark, but there's already some parallel lines and things happening in there that tell me there's more craft cloaking beyond. Okay, this one is just some strange things. I was observing a full moon driving around a neighborhood. So the upper left-hand corner shows you the moon seemed strangely small too. It was kind of going down to like a pinhole. But what's strange is I saw these like backlit objects happening around. So if you look to the right, I was just kind of tracing what I thought was happening there, almost like a bell-like shape with it looks like, clear triangular form here. There's another one kind of sticking down here. But the more I moved in, you can just see, and actually I meant to put this to the right, like flip-flop these locations, but actually maybe it works out well. So you see what I've traced, it's just kind of going, there's clearly an object sitting in front of this darker object. And I call all this stuff, this kind of cloaking material that's wafting or wafting over, as plasma. It's just my reference for cloaking material, which means it's a material that's denser, heavier and denser than just water vapor that can help cling to objects and hide them, obscure them. Anyway, there's little bits and pieces happening all over in the scene. See what you see. This is a fun one. The center and below, the lower row and center is the original. And right away, I just saw this sharp point with a sharp line. And when we go to the left, that's with a little more enhancement. And then, bam, it already starts popping out objects. So I know this looks like a couple of objects, one sitting on top of the other. There's a chance it could be one contiguous object, but I think it's two separate ones. Then we start to see straight lines. Looks like the end of a pipe down here. This is some kind of symmetrical object. You see these 2 points coming out here. They're very symmetrical about an axis, so that looks like one elongated ship with kind of like a split tail. If we're looking at it as rising straight up, it looks like another arrowhead-shaped thing is dovetailing into it. Anyway, we come up to the upper left, and I start zooming in on the scene, and we start to see more revealed to the point where we go to the upper left. And here you see a really good view of what looks like a little craft piggybacking on top of another one. And this other one perhaps has another one just docked to it from below. Then here, the lower left, you already see a straight line. That looks like a craft, where this is the back with like 2 parallel legs, straight line, and this would be the front. So as I've mentioned before, when you see overall weird, especially low cloud activity, especially just kind of seems to spontaneously come up out of nowhere, you know that there's probably a cluster of a bunch of craft traveling along in these overall larger quote-unquote cloud formations as they travel along. Now in the upper left, I'll bring your attention back here. In addition to this one being a craft, it looks like we have other ones at different angles. So this looks like, if you follow my cursor to the triangle, this would be the back end and that would be the point, and all sorts of other little pipe pieces and things are floating all over in here. So I think we've got a lot of different craft, again, just kind of moved together in this weird cluster. All right, this one, we go to the lower right-hand corner. This is a photo taken at night. So as I've said in other shows, I encourage you to go out at least 5 minutes a day. It can be 2 minutes at one time, 1 minute here, 1 minute there, but really keep it a true several minutes without being distracted by social media or anything. Just truly look with your eyes, look around you, look at the skies, and watch how clouds move or don't move or suddenly seem to come out of nowhere and start developing and getting more and more detailed as they stay in place. These are some indicators that we've got cloaking craft emerging. Now down here in the lower right, I took the picture because at night I just saw this is strange. It's very flat and straight at the bottom. Something's curving out at a different angle, and I just feel it too. There's cloaking craft going on. So when we look to the left with some enhancement, I sketched through these arrows over my photo on my phone. What shows that they're absolutely not organic natural clouds is not only they have weird straight, bottoms to them, they also have 2 different trajectories. So this is coming straight across horizontal, and yet this now is banking up at a different angle, and they're almost touching each other. So that would not happen with normal cloud activity. And the more we look now at this kind of other piece coming out of here, we go up, up to the upper left. And we just see this is kind of comprised of maybe multiple little craft coming together. And the upper right, I was just taking a guess at what might be going on. That here, down here might be the front of a ship, and these might be other little objects, you know, also kind of just floating along. Anyway, see what you see? This one was just truly bizarre. Kind of in the same area, same neighborhood, over the same part of sky. This got my attention. In the lower right is the original photo. What the heck is this? I've never seen a cloud look like that in my life. It's really low in altitude, and it's just cruising along by itself. And once again, there's more to all of this than appears at first glance. One could say, oh, this is just one overall object. Well, no. As we move to the left, we can see there's probably 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 different things kind of just traveling all along together. Or maybe it is one overall thing. Can't quite tell yet in this scene, so we go up with more enhancement. And voila, I already see that, yes, this looks like some kind of platform ship that another one has docked onto. And in another slide coming up, we're going to see that this thing is actually like launching off the top of this one. Some weird activity below, other little weird things happening all over. So we go to the upper right with even more enhancement. We start to see like a hole. So maybe that shoots out some of the typical, cloud cover, so you don't see these things as exaggerated. We see straight line here, more or less, angles and edges and things that would not appear in natural clouds. So we're looking at a cloaking craft. It absolutely knows that I am looking at it. You get that sense when you quote-unquote lock eyes, when you're being watched. It goes both ways. And in this case, call it sloppy cloaking. It's letting itself be a little more revealed to someone like me, because I know absolutely whatever intelligences are creating these things absolutely know that somebody like me is watching. So anyway, this gets even more interesting in the next slide. And we look down in the lower right-hand corner, and that's another original photo. As this thing is coming along, there's another weird bent-type, dark-shadowed thing right in the same proximity, but has a totally different color, and that's no light effect from sun and shadow play. It just is its own color. So I also know some kind of weird cloaking craft activity is going on there. Plus something is rising up vertical. It was a very strange scene. So we look at our little interesting thing here, and we already start to see, again, the longer you consistently watch these things, even just over a minute time frame, things tend to morph and change before your eyes. But you got to keep steady looking at it. So now as this thing is morphing and changing, we see there's a triangular shape up here. It's kind of lifting off of this platform. You can start to see little pipes here too. So I don't know if there's multiple craft, or if this is one overall bigger craft and things just kind of, again, shoot out this cloaking material or plasma out of there, or if it's some kind of exhaust or something. Anyway, there are, I'm guessing, multiple craft, kind of hiding this overall shape. Especially this thing now starts to get a little bit better formed. But this stuff is just really wild. And a lot of times when you look up in the sky, you'll just catch it just for an instant. You might see something morph and change, or you'll see a symmetrical shape, and then some other quote-unquote cloud material may like phase over it, and then you don't see it as much anymore. This is one of a rare occasion where this thing really just let me see it straight out, and watch it morph and change. It was really cool. So here's at the top of that, up here where this mess, starts to lift off of what I'm calling this as a platform. And you can just see it's filled with extra little parts and pieces, little pipe-like things, little shapes. So it will be fun one day to see all of this without the smoke and mirrors, as I always say, and just see what are we really looking at. All right, here's that piece down below that I said was arcing. That was a different color. And here we go. I'm pointing out its cloaking craft. Oh, sorry, in the lower right-hand corner is what it looked like to the naked eye. Upper left is with a little more enhancement. Off to here, to the left, there's a triangular-shaped craft. Here's another triangular-shaped craft, and other little things, parts and pieces, kind of becoming more visible. So then we look over here to the upper right, we're zoomed in even more, and we're looking at this piece over here. We start to see a triangular shape, or maybe it's like a faceted or pyramidal shape because it's got some depth to it. We have this, pure white. These are kind of like machine parts of some other craft that's probably hiding right in this thing. Even start to see two sticks that are parallel. Those are like little jets at the end of some type of craft. We see also, a harder line happening here, and one going this way. And again, you wouldn't have totally different trajectories happening and a supposed what we should only be seeing in this area of subtropical to tropical Miami, Florida, is cumulus clouds, especially at this altitude. Puffy white clouds, well, these are anything but that. Okay, this is really interesting. This is a little shout out to a YouTube channel called Hopinson. 99.9% sure this is in Michigan, and she happened to capture. So she does some time lapses of the area and her skies, and in the lower right, you had to really slow down the footage plus freeze it to catch this thing shooting by unnaturally fast. So it's not a bird, it's not a bug. So I thought, let me zoom in and see what's going on. Plus, there's a lot of telltale signs. There's a lot of cloaking craft going on beyond this. So anyway, what is this? You know, lower left-hand corner. Is this some kind of instrumentation? Is it a craft itself, just with like a really tiny being in there? I think anything's possible with it. You know, looking back here too, we see bits and pieces poking out of the cloud. That's why I say there's craft in here too. We start to see an elongated triangular form back in there as well. So where there's cloaking craft, it's not out of bounds to know that there's going to be some sensor equipment or other smaller things shooting out and about and around. So we go to the upper right, and I have this pointing out, look at, these are engineered parts on this thing. This thing has straight lines, vertically and horizontally, so it's not a natural bug or bird. And there's even a hole here with like radiating things out, symmetrical. So we've got total machine parts happening in here. And the upper left, I had just started to trace over the rigidity of the structure to better call out the parts and pieces. And again, all of these are on my YouTube community pages, posts, but I just thought it would be fun to pull them out and go over them like in my typical Sky Show style and highlight them and put them all in one place to kind of just put a nice summary to all of my cloaking craft shows, Sky Shows thus far. Okay, here's another one at night, another little series. I don't think I have the original photo. For whatever reason, I didn't grab it, but the lower right-hand corner is one with already a little bit of enhancement. And again, this is a nighttime sky. But if you follow my cursor, this, you know, kind of arrow-shaped, darker imprint really caught my attention. So I'm kind of zooming in on this figure. And if you would go to the upper right, that's kind of where you most clearly see it. Look how straight that line is. And it seems to have a little bit of symmetry to it. And some little like tail piece back here. So I don't know if this is all one thing hiding or if it's multiple craft hiding in here. Whatever the case, this isn't just natural. You know, it's a clear triangular form. It's cloaking craft or cloaking technology of some type. All right, here's another strange scene in June of 2024, just after sunset. Lower left-hand corner is the original. And just what caught my attention is this weird shape. Again, it would be strange enough to see some kind of elliptical form happening on an angle like this, extremely low in the sky as it was, but on top of that we see a pure triangular back end of a triangular form attached to it, and like another stick-like piece. Once again, we've got strange colors, and we've got a weird thing going on back here too. We're going to look at that in the slides coming up. This looks like a pure elongated triangular ship resting on top of another quote-unquote cloud, which is likely another ship that is just landing or docking on top of. So we move up, and I will be highlighting this piece, this piece over here, and then we'll get to B in an upcoming slide. But look at all this weird activity going on in this sky. Even here beyond, that looks like a triangular form. Straight line, straight line. Sure, it's a little ragtag, but it's still, when you look at it, even with this little divot, it's a symmetrical object. Anyway, let's move along to the center. We just things get very strongly developed with straight lines and symmetry. And then this little piece down here is like two holes. So that looks like a cloaking craft that's phasing in and out of state. Anyway, I just drew these lines to show how we've got bulging symmetry and then what almost looks like a Christmas tree going on down here, and triangular shapes, very clearly so along the sides. Just really strange. Here we go. I'm going to show you again. Follow my cursor. I guess upper left over here. We're going to be looking at this thing. And here it is. So lower left, we zoom in and we see this, again, sitting on top of what's supposedly a cloud mass, which has got to be another larger craft. We go up to the upper right, and I'm just saying, is there a clear dome over a little cockpit? Because actually, this thing looks like the back end, and this looks like a whole craft, and that looks like that could be the little cockpit piece. If somebody's like a single seater sitting in this thing like a race car and looking that way, that would be where maybe the being is sitting to operate this thing. What do you think? On the upper left, I put a break, and we see there's with this level of enhancement, we can see what looks like that would be a dome of where somebody would sit, and then this to me would be the bow of the ship. But anyway, see what you see here. All right, this is just a fun little slide because as a part of my YouTube community page posts, I put down when I guest appear anywhere, and Mila over at Higher Vibrations was kind enough to have me on her show a few times with interviews, little chats, esoteric conversations, anything and everything really can come up in these things. Her overall show, Higher Vibrations, her channel, her name she goes by, is also just covers everything about ascension symptoms, and all kinds of fascinating topics come up over on her channel, so I invite you to go visit it, whether you see our little interviews or other chats by others. I highly recommend you check it out. Also, there are Zoom calls and meetings where everyone's invited to come on. You don't need to turn on your camera. They're not recorded, so there are chats like that happening on Wednesday nights. And just at other times she comes on with live chat, Q&As on Sundays. Lots of good stuff happening over there. So enjoy your time over there too if you check it out. All right, now we're looking at another post I did. I did travel to Aotearoa, or New Zealand. And the first moment we landed there, I knew that these were my kind of people who ever lived in New Zealand, or Aotearoa, because this on the right-hand side is a flight schedule, departures, and in an airport. And the first thing I saw when I looked up getting off the plane was, usually it says the time that you have to get to your gate. It will say like on time or delayed or hurry, get to the gate kind of thing. And I loved how all of this said, relax, 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 relax. So beautiful messages and wisdoms can be learned from the people of that beautiful country. All right, still in New Zealand, this really grabbed my attention. This in the foreground is a sculpture of a moa bird, which was supposedly back in its time 12 foot tall. Before it was, I guess, kind of hunted to extinction, they say. I'm not really sure if that's true history on that or not, as how it no longer is on the land. However, very interesting to know that a 12-foot, more or less, bird was running around. And anyway, but I was taking I liked the poetic framing of this, with the silhouette of the sculpture in the foreground. And then I realized, what the heck is going on behind this? In the sky. So it's kind of like a ring-like structure with a straight up cylinder popping up vertical. So we go to, we'll go to the right hand side. So here's with some enhancement. Look at this. It's like a pure cylinder, like a trash can sitting there, or like some kind of silo sitting there. And there's other weird stuff when you look in the way this is backlit. There's like another straight up little can, like oil drum, shape there. So of course, what else does this in the clouds? Follow my cursor. This is mountain terrain. You can look over here to the left. That's mountain terrain, and the mountain goes up, and then the clouds come over. So this is cloud cover. This is not anything other than clouds, other than what's cloaking within them. So anyway, going back to the lower right-hand corner, it's weird. There's kind of a symmetrical ring. I think it's formed by many different cloaking craft. This thing just erupts out of nowhere, and then something weird is phasing in and out of state up here. This almost looks like these two are the same craft flying, parallel to each other. Now, I say craft, but they could also be bioorganisms because they really look like fish. If we see this at the front, and then this looks like the tail. Again, here looks like a tail that could be, like a longer fish. Now, it could also be craft that are made to look like a bioorganism, like a living organism. So if you saw the movie Aquaman in 2019, they showed these craft underwater that looked like fish. They mimicked fish, but were technology. So who knows what's going on there. What's interesting here, too, is there could be some kind of a massive, much bigger cloaking craft going on up here, where this white stuff is like the plasma cloaking material, and this big shadow, because it's got a nice curve to it, could be an object up there. but I didn't even really pay attention to that because I was distracted by this ring and this, what I'm going to call oil drum. So let's zoom in on this oil drum and look at it. It's a perfect line this way and this way. We are looking at cloaking craft, no question. Here too, we see this dark silhouette. This is a perfect triangular form right there. This is another one, another scene where the more you look, the more you're going to find. And I'm going to leave it to you to do that little investigating. But look at the upper right-hand corner. These are rigid structures that have right angles. We're talking about engineered technology. Even up here, this is craft because we've got holes marching along equidistant, they're spaced equally apart. So again, have fun looking around there. Also, like I always say, like the upper left-hand corner, I look at color signatures. So this thing it's got its own color signature, where everything else immediately around it has a different one. So we're talking an object. All right, we're going to move along. Also in New Zealand, or Aotearoa, this is in Milford Sound. Lower right-hand corner is the original. And not only is it just gorgeous, but we see in the background, this really caught my attention. It was like a ring-like form. So, as I move along, left-hand side here I see it even more. There's definitely different objects comprising this shape, which is not a natural cloud shape. There's also something up here that looks like an ellipse with a vapor trail behind it. There's a lot of curiosities happening in here. So we go up, and I see even more emerge. See down here, in the middle to the left, kind of see something that looks symmetrical going on back there, and with more enhancement. Oh, also here, kind of a diamond shape. But we go up and enhance it more, and I can see that's a ring. That's part of a bigger ring. And so is this. It's like a couple of objects that are probably very similar. And this one you start to see a very clear triangular form, symmetrical one. So we go to the right-hand side. Look at this. It's like a ring, and these are two symmetrical sticks that come to a point. So that's like a little single cedar craft, I believe. I'm not sure what this is going on down here. Maybe it's something it just docks to. Maybe it's like a ring that it can dock onto and take off from. And at the tip here is another standalone triangular form. Again, this thing back here is echoing this shape as well. And we've got different craft things happening up in here because I see, rigid pieces moving at different angles to each other. So it's very fascinating. Another one of these, the more you look up here, the more you're going to find. And also train your eye to look at different scales of things. So this actually looks like, upper right looks like one big thing with like an opening at the end. But also this whole big shadowy form could be one more massive craft hiding in there, as this could be one big craft too. Maybe this is an overall craft system that then can just neatly park back into this and cloak back in. I don't know. See what you think is going on. All right, now down here, let's see where we're at. Okay, let's start off at the lower right-hand corner. Now we're jumping down to this Queenstown in New Zealand, Aotearoa. And here, I just was looking at the quote-unquote moon, and it looked just kind of strange, so I did some enhancements. I'm looking to the left, I see a little bit more. Upper left-hand corner, all sorts of things start to kind of come up in the sky with more enhancement. Look at this in the middle. Who thought that from the lower right-hand corner we could get here to the upper middle? Looks like there's maybe a bigger object happening, huge object potentially happening off in the distance, cloak and craft perhaps. Or it's just some light play and there are other objects all in here. However, in the foreground is what interests me. We have like a pipe piece going this way while something else moves this way, almost perpendicular to it. That doesn't happen with natural clouds. Also, we start to see a point here. I'm venturing to say that's an independent craft in and of itself. Something strange is happening up here too, toward the quote-unquote moon. Anyway, also there's right here, there's like a space and then another little cloudy line, and they follow the same curve. So it's almost like a little force field is around some of these things. It looks like a pipe, sticking in this way to me too. Anyway, this overall thing where you see the red line could also be the shape of this thing, where it's a bigger craft that flew by and it left a little kind of a wake or something behind it. Anyway, this whole thing looks just really strange. You can even see a hole atop this thing up here. What do you think is happening in that scene? Okay, this is somewhere between Queenstown and Milford Sound, but looking at the lower left is the original. We see a silhouette of a mountain. There's rainforest down below, but this thing was massive, and it just screamed that this is a perfect shape. Look at it, more or less, and symmetrical. So we look to the right with enhancement, and it turns out this little smoky thing in front has a very clear triangular shaped craft sitting right there. So we've got craft and another craft in the foreground. We go up to the upper left. This is what I mean. That's a perfect point. That is engineered structure. And this overall thing is an object because we have sticks and they're parallel poking out here. And then just zooming in on this little thing to the left here, over here in the middle, look at it, it's like the letter A. And then the upper right, it's like an A with a sphere with, like, if you had a Phillips screw head on the tip of it, that's what it looks like. So we know we're dealing with rigid structures. And here too, see this straight line is shadow at the bottom of another triangular object. So figure that one out. There's just a lot going on in that scene. All right, just for fun, I say it turns out the same photo enhancement process I used for identifying and clarifying cloaking craft in the sky works toward clarifying paw prints on car roofs too. I'm guessing this is a kitten print because this was so tiny and I almost missed it. So, sorry, lower right hand corner. It's facing us, the little toes. So on the right hand corner, this is a really teeny paw print. It was really adorable. So with some enhancement, you start to see it a little more. Then I rotated it around just so we can see it more in the traditional way that we're used to looking at a paw print. And voila, to the right, that's the little paw print. And it must have been a very tiny little kitty. So anyway, just letting you know, these techniques to do enhancements and get at things work for more little investigations than just cloaking craft. Okay, this one, if we look at the lower left, this is back in Miami, and I don't have the original to all of this. I already started enhancing. But there, look how crazy this sky is. There seems to be in the lower right-hand corner a dark triangular craft backlit, a very elongated one. Another elongated thing coming in here with a perfect hole. What are these weird little loops, straight lines? What a mess. So I'm saying there are pipe ends, maybe weapon openings, exhaust, air portals. The more you look, the more you're going to find in this one. So the upper left is where I'm just saying, okay, is that a portal? What's going on in these areas? Look at A. We jump to the upper right-hand corner. That's a perfect hole. What the heck is going on in here? This looks like actually two crafts sitting next to each other, just as far as what I can see. Maybe it's over one overall one that's kind of split. I don't know. Anyway, the more you look in this mess, you will find lots of individual craft and things of all kinds hiding in there. Even down here when I put letter C, these are perfect holes. It looks like the end of a pipe, another hole here. So what can you find there? It's pretty wild. All right, I'm repeating the little diagram here because I want to focus on area B, which is over here in this bigger circle. And you look up the right-hand corner. Look at that's a straight pipe form. That line, that couldn't look any more like a pipe if it tried. And then we have things coming in perpendicular to it, like little vent holes or something. Little machine parts. We've got triangular forms in here. So we're definitely dealing with craft and objects all over the place in that scene. All right, this one, we look at the lower right-hand corner, and this just started out of nowhere. These, extremely low in altitude, and they just, popped up in a neighborhood in Miami, Florida, like seemingly out of nowhere. So back in the past decades, I've been on this planet for decades, many, many decades. I know this area. And normally we just have big puffy white clouds moving along at much higher altitude. These are springing up really low, and they show every indication of being cloaking craft, and that's how they can do that. So we look at the middle. I've done a little more enhancement. Got to be aware of things not just happening where it's most intensely white and puffy, but also up higher because we start to see other cloaking craft and then particulate starting to emerge. So we look over here to the left on the lower row, and look at, we have an imprint of a triangle here in the middle. We also have strange stuff that looks very much like machined parts happening up here at 8.1. We'll just focus on the B component right now. We go up here and we start to see it. You see triangular form happening. And to the right, I just show what could be happening. Looks like something, because of the way this has disturbance behind it, looks like a pure triangle flew in and then like plasma'd itself up, pushed out some plasma cloaking material out of its pipes, and voila, we have like a partially cloaked craft. Or crafts, plural, objects. See what you think. Okay, this one, the lower right-hand corner, there's a lot going on with this overall cloud system, but I'm only going to focus on C and D. I started to see very straight lines, Another weird little thing splintering off from this overall thing. And here we go. We start to see that D.1 could be a craft on its own. Then we go up over upper left. I start to see shadows and pipes. That's a hole. That's not a gnat or anything. That's an actual black end of a pipe sticking out. And then this starts to take a symmetrical shape of independent craft. We go to the middle. Look at this. There's a hole. It's a cylinder, and there's sticks and holes. This is a craft, or some kind of cloaking object. And then we start to see that black thing I was talking about. That's an opening, and there's other weird engineered shapes going on. So I just took a guess. I see this shadow. See, it's backlit. Looks like an elongated diamond shape. So I believe we're looking at the bottom or top of some kind of craft. I think the bottom, though, with the pipe. So that would be the back end, and up here would be, again, the front or the bow of a ship. And there's another one here probably, too. All right, this got really weird. I say on the post, I just have to say it. That's no moon. It's a space station. The quote from Obi-Wan Kenobi coming from Star Wars Episode 4, New Hope, because lower left-hand corner, I'm looking at the horizon, and I see a lot of weird activity in the sky with the clouds, but then I'm like, why is it breaking like this? And the more I looked, I see the silhouette of a perfect sphere, or it looks like a huge moon or planetary body. If you look up to the middle one, we go up one more, looking at the upper left, and look at, it's perfectly curved. So it's either a cloaking ship that's massive, or it's a cloaking planetary body or something. Right above it looks like a wishbone shape, perfectly symmetrical, see here? And we have other like straight like or stick pipe like things going on. So by the time we get to the upper right, we really start to see there's little pipes and objects and things flying around. There's pipe pens everywhere. And then I put question marks, what's really going on in here? And even up above here we see hole, hole, hole. They're marching along very symmetrical and very kind of in regular spacing, regularized spacing. There's stuff looking back here that also looks very rigid and structured. So we're talking a lot of cloaking craft going on. I'm still not exactly sure what's going on with this thing that looks like a cloaked planet or something. But I also was starting to trace this line because maybe there's a bigger craft doing this. And this is the back, almost like a knife shape. I don't know. See what you think. Oh, hold on 1 second. Okay, I'm back. When I step away, I'm just clearing my voice. All right, this I'm not going to spend too much time on. I'm going to leave this to you to do a little further digging around, looking on your own. But here we see what looks like on the lower left, like a quote-unquote condensation trail, but it's really either a chemtrail or what I call a camouflage trail of some kind. But in the background, toward the quote-unquote sun, I start to see these rigid structure things happening. So with a little more zooming in, I'm going to go to the upper left, move to the middle, upper center here. Look at this, starts to look very structured. What is this doing in and around the quote-unquote sun in the foreground? Even this thing has a rigid shape. This does too. So we go to the right, and I was just sketch overlaying what could be going on with some of these scenes. But the moment that I can do straight lines and symmetry, we know we're dealing with engineered objects. So I'm not sure what's going on, but I suspect that this is either a cluster of or one cloaking craft flying this way, and another one starting to emerge in and out of cloaked state. This is just a curiosity. I looked off in the distance running errands around Miami, and all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, why is the cloud cover coming down that low? You can just see it. And it's extremely low to the point where I'm thinking, geez, is that tornadoes? But it wasn't. It was just like loosely fragmented stuff that's supposed to look like cloud. But that was very, very strange. All right, now we're going to jump back to New Zealand, or Aotearoa, and this is in Queenstown in the South Island, and there was a, what do you call it, like a gondola that went up to a mountain, and then below was this go-kart range, or, what do you call them, routes. And so these go-karts would come down and around and go down further, and I was just looking, I put this in one of my shorts, video shorts. This is number 316. And then I started looking in the background. I'm like, okay, that's not a normal cloud in the backdrop. So here we go, lower left, I zoomed in, and sure enough, it just looks strange. It's all by itself. And then there's this like spike thing, coming to a point down below it. So I'm like, let's definitely, do some enhancement on that. So as I do the enhancement, sure enough, we've got a straight line. This thing is coming to a point. It's not one of the limbs of this tree, because that's over here. It's a very straight line, and this looks like wafting or wafting plasma over an object. So we go up to the upper left, and sure enough, this looks like the back of a concrete mixer, the drum of it, with a couple holes here. So that's clearly some kind of object, either stuck onto a bigger craft, or it's sent out on it by itself, like a pod or instrumentation or something. But it's clearly a sphere of some kind. And then we keep going in the upper right, and you can see it a little bit better. These are holes. They're symmetrical. What is going on there? It looks like it's attached to something bigger. There's a triangular form back here. Lots of weird stuff going on. But anyway, never assume things are just a cloud. The more you zoom in, we're finding all kinds of things that are cloaking objects and ships. All right, this one's fun because this was very straightforward, and I just said, hey, it's Sunship Sunday, apparently. I was looking up to the west-southwest at about 2:30 p.m., and to the naked eye, well, first I had sunglasses on, but then I could take them off. I could even see there was a triangular object sitting right next to the quote-unquote sun. This is a lens flare down here, I know that, so this is not. So what is it? So we zoom in, left-hand view here, lower left corner, we see a straight line, and we see a triangular shaped craft with a very flat back end to it, even has shadow. Straight line, doesn't happen around the sun, that we know of anyway. So I know it's craft. So we go to the upper left-hand corner, here it is, more of it starts to emerge. It even looks like something's flying off of it, so I don't know if that's like a probe or a little instrumentation to take readings on the air quality. I don't know, just a wild guess there. We go to the upper middle, look at this. We've got different color signatures on this thing, so we know this is a different quote-unquote animal than whatever's going on over here. Go to the right, I'm just tracing over, an overlay trace of this thing, just to kind of show what we might be looking at. And I even see a hole over here, so that's more like on the upper left-hand corner. That looks like a definite hole, exhaust port, or where this shoots out the cloaking plasma to me. See what you see. Okay, this one I'm kind of going to fly over quickly. Lower left-hand corner is the original. Again, this is at night, so you can be taking photos at night and have fun playing around with those too. Sometimes the particulate is so intense that you might not be able to pull as much out as a daytime photo with particulate, but you can try, see what you get. In this case, what really stood out to me, if you look to the right-hand side here, was these weird white points kind of forming a circle, and that just did not look right or feel right. Neither did this, of course, and the obvious. What are these things doing going up vertical as this thing is like doing something else? Very strange sky, nothing normal about it. So we go to the middle, still looking strange. Up here, it's just really strange how these almost fit like a jigsaw puzzle together. This looks like a pipe end. So I'm going to say we've got two craft tandem, stuck onto each other here and here. I start to see, actually I'll jump over to the right because I'm also seeing these weird points. So I look to the right, and these definitely look like independent little objects. They're definitely not cloud material, something there too. And then we start looking at this mass, and then look over here, we see the shadow like an incision. This thing is like cut, and this is like a puzzle piece that slams up into that. So, and there's another point here. This looks like an overall straight line, so I think we've got a dark craft here too. I don't know what this is doing, but look how strange this is. Nothing natural about it. All right, there was a rainbow, and I put this, I think, in on one of my videos, my little shorts, and it was just very vibrant. So the original is down here to the left, and I started enhancing it for fun because I thought, let's see, the sky had so much particulate in it, and it was really densely, like foggy out, not a fog, but very fine particulate. And I thought, let's see, what's behind here, because I could sense it was a little darker here to the right. So with enhancement, it gets a little darker, Upper right-hand corner, there's definitely some kind of object hiding behind this wall of particulate. And I just thought it was cool, the effect of whatever's going on with this rainbow. Haven't seen it really turn into that when I've put high contrast and stuff on it, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe you have some ideas. And it looks like something's maybe hiding behind it over here. All right, another nighttime photo in the lower right-hand corner. And actually, I took this as a still from a video, because if you look at B, that's all like a weird horizontal crackle lightning. That's not lightning. It's not what do I want to say? It's not natural lightning anyway. So I was suspecting that was coming off of a craft. Up at A, I just saw a clear cutout of a triangular form. So we look to the left with more enhancement. Sure enough, we see this craft sitting here at A.1. A.2 reveals it even more. Totally different color signatures all around. Then B down here was where that flash of supposed lightning was. And I start to see a whole like disc-like shape or spherical form with like a hole at the top. And we can see it here too in the upper right-hand corner. So I'm not buying for one moment that that's natural lightning. It's kind of like, you know, plasma effects or, you know, bolts coming off of an object. Okay, now this gets interesting. Lower left-hand corner is the original. Again, just weird little shapes here and there, just to tell me that we don't have, you know, natural cloud scene going on. If anything, there's probably a big craft up here, and these are little companion craft floating about. What I want to focus on is the, let's see, the area of D and C, because we look over here to the lower right-hand corner and we start to make out a little craft at C. Something weird popping off down here. It looks very rigid at actually B and D. Upper right-hand corner, here we go. There's that C object. Looks like a craft to me. Heading this way, you can even see the point of it looks like the front of this craft, or the bow of a boat, so to speak, right? D2, I don't know what that is, but that's not a normal cloud. And B.2, like if we look at the lower right-hand corner, it's over here. It's like this little thing sticking out below, so to me that's a cloaking craft that's docking up to something bigger above it. Anyway, lots of weird little curious anomalies and strange things. Look at the color signatures. Why is this like violet all over here, turning red-orange, and then even green? What's going on? Something's going on up there. Okay, this one, lower left-hand corner, again is a scene at night. I had to take this because it's the only thing sitting in the sky that looks like that. And it was really, really low. So I zoom in, put the enhancements, and sure enough, I mean, to me, this is absolutely a cloaking craft or object. Oh, with more beyond. That's like the end of a pipe. And this is like a triangular one. Okay, this is happened while on an airboat ride over the River of Grass, or the Everglades, River of Grass, it can also be called more poetically, because actually the Everglades is one big system, like a river moving through, with a lot of sawgrass in it. So the bottom left-hand corner, I obviously was looking at the clouds, had a beautiful view, and suspected we had cloaking craft activity going on. So with some enhancement moving up, sure we do, all up in here. We have weird cylindrical forms. Let's keep going up to the upper left. You see them a little bit more, ring-like shapes, little things floating around. Down here between the 1 and 2 is a complete backlit triangle with a curve, you know, like a piece of pie. We look in the upper middle, we start to see these objects even more. Look at this. This is like a, again, like an arrow shape. It's just missing a little stick in the middle, and you got an arrow pointing this way. Then this is a little cutout of a triangular form. We've got pipe pieces, ends of pipes here. Again, the more you look, the more you're going to find in this one. Pretty fascinating stuff. To the point that even over here, we've got like a sky imprint. But man, is that a triangle or what? Can't deny that. And then, if you squint your eyes, you can start to read this shape. See the shadows here? It almost looks like a bas-relief, like this thing is sticking out on top of the cloud. Really strange stuff. See what you can see in that scene. All right, lower left-hand corner. This is in Miami just after sunset, looking west from my vantage point. Once again, these objects, I'm calling them objects, cloaking objects, were insanely low in altitude in the sky. These are the tops of trees. They're not even that big. We go to the upper left-hand corner, and then with some enhancement, we start to see different color signatures. So not only do we have rigid objects here that haven't changed shape with more contrast and things on the photo, we also have like something that looks like triangular shape topping up here over the back, behind the tree. But look at this. We start to see a magenta or hot pink ball emerge. Look at this. It's a sphere. And it looks like there's a triangular craft floating in front of it. Really bizarre stuff. Look at that more on your own time if you have a moment. Really interesting. Okay, this now comes from, it's a shout out to Lake Superior Skywatcher in Nature Lovers channel. On one of her more recent YouTube shorts posts, she was looking at this, had this scene in video, and I just took a still from her footage, and she said it was okay to do it. So here is a still from her video footage, and I just caught the scene because I'm like, oh, yep, we got cloaking craft in here, because the moment I can see a pure triangle, game on. So we look to the left, and with more enhancement, lots of things are happening in here. So I saw this little thing I was just mostly focusing on. So if we go up to the upper left, here you see it. It's symmetrical. Look at that. It's craft. It's an object. So whether you want to say it's like a single-seater UFO where somebody would pilot it, like you or I just hop in a car and start going, it could also be an object of some kind. Maybe it takes, I don't know, atmospheric readings, or it surveys stuff, kind of looks down on the ground, looks things that are Earth-related. I don't know. See what you see, but it's pretty darn fascinating. And even beyond it, there's some like ring-like forms. It gets real interesting the more you look. Anyway, enjoy that. All right, here's another one of my posts where I say, based on last night's moon footage by some who could see it, the quote of the day is now, that's no moon and no second moon with it. It's a space station and an incoming craft, not an asteroid and not a moon. So this is just referencing that for a couple of months, it was even noted in mainstream media, for what that's worth, not much, but you know what I'm saying, is even for toward the general masses who are maybe, let's just say, not awakened. That's not meant derogatory, it's just meaning maybe people aren't as in tune with some things going on in their world as others, or coming into the awareness of it. But even in mainstream media, they were talking about a second moon coming by our moon. And it happened to only be there for a couple of months, apparently, and then just kind of like disappeared. Well, in some people's YouTube footage, I noticed, in particular, somebody was walking around the UK, that the second moon was visible. So it wasn't visible everywhere. It was only in certain conditions. But mainstream media said it was there, and I just found it funny. I had to create a separate little post about it, because you would think something like that would gain a lot of attention, would have people talking about it in the post office or at the grocery store, and I heard not a peep. So I just found that very curious. But there absolutely was a second object, and from my understanding and that of others who look at these things or can sense these things, I definitely thought that was a craft. It wasn't just a moon or asteroid or anything like that. It was a craft with beings in it. And my theory on that was that the people, the global governments, the globalists, however you want to phrase it, ones with malintent toward humanity at this point, is supposed to come clean with disclosure and tell everyone, yes, there are ETs, there are craft, they are beings, they are humanoid, they're every kind of, creation. It's more than just algae on an asteroid. No, we have actual beings walking around, flying around, doing whatever. And these controllers, let's just say, those who like to believe they control everything on the planet, are supposed to come clean about it. And even the U.S. congressional hearings going on at about the same time, this object, second moon, quote unquote, was up there. U.S. congressional hearings were dancing around the subject and not coming clean and not being honest and forthcoming that yes, there are ETs, yes, there are craft. So I believe that that second object stayed up there kind of as a message saying, hey, okay, you're not going to announce it officially? Good. We'll just show ourselves slowly so that all of the people know, yes, there is other life, yes, we come in peace, and yes, there are some that are up to no good. There are beings, absolutely, that are not, but these are ones that are of a higher vibration and frequency, that are just kind of coming in gently like a loving family member would, and just saying, hey, we're here, don't freak out. But clearly your own, systems that have enslaved you are not coming clean about our existence. So we'll just hang around and kind of make it obvious. Now, that's done in a slow drip approach, so higher vibrational beings, higher dimensional beings, aren't going to have any kind of mal or negative intent. They want to kind of gently let us know that they're here. They don't want to panic or freak out about it. Now, what happened? They show up. So the ones that are negative on the planet, that have enslaved humanity without humanity maybe really realizing it yet, some do, some don't, they weren't probably happy that that second moon, quote unquote, was there. And so they also, I think, panicked and launched into one of their last cards to play, which is trying to stage a fake alien invasion and try to show or frame it that, oh, the ET beings are bad and dangerous and all of that. But I think that backfired on them. So I think they approached that with these drones, which are clearly more man-made than things from higher dimensional beings. And I just think the whole plan fell flat. I mean, look at it. Even now, I just saw some article pop up that drones are still in the sky. And I think people are onto it. There are the man-made ones and ones that are even made in conjunction with dark military ops. operations. And they're also the ones that inspire wonder and wow and awe, that are like dancing stars, like plasmoids, plasmatics, that aren't, created like with rigid nuts and bolts types of things, that do come from somewhere else. And they inspire awe and childlike wonder. They don't have like this lifeless negative feel to them. So anyway, I'm going to move along. So on that note, lower left-hand corner, I came out of a grocery store, and I see it plain as day, in this case, plain as sunset. Looking to the west, very low in the sky, you can see an elongated triangular form. So with enhancement, I'm showing it for all of you. I'm trained to see this now with the naked eye. I kind of already know once I do enhancement what I'll see, but I also see some surprising things. It's always fun every time to see what happens with a little bit of enhancement on the photo. So here we go. We see a triangular form. This even has like little nibs or nubs on the back that are parallel to each other. So we're dealing with a cloak and craft. Those are like the jets on the back, and this would be the bow of the boat, so to speak. What started popping up too is a triangular form, other weird things happening in the background. So going up one more, look at this. It is a cloak and craft sitting on a little bed of plasma. How beautiful, right? Look at the different color signatures. This is more pink. This becomes a totally different indigo color. There's other things. These look like two parallel, macaroni noodles, straight macaroni noodles with holes at the ends. So we got structure going on there. We got a little structure hiding behind here as well. And here, this whole thing back here is a whole big craft. Anyway, see what you see. I did a little sketch overlay to show the two main things that you see is this triangular craft and this triangle. So I made this into a YouTube Shorts, and I also did a little short video with music set to music, and I outlined these shapes on that as well. Now, to the upper right is what I just showed you. And I wanted to compare, because on other YouTube channels, Earth and Sky Watching channels, this one I don't want to give so much credit to who he is. I know most of you probably know him. I used to love what he did at the very beginning, and I'm just going out on a limb here. I think along the way he might have gotten a little compromised, but maybe yes, maybe no. Take your own thoughts on that. But it's Mr. MBB 333 channel, and again, I just noticed some kind of strange energies working in on his channel. He started off being very forthcoming and seemed level and true, and then somewhere along the way after his appearance on the History Channel, it just seemed to me, now I could be wrong, just saying these are my opinions, that he might have gotten a bit compromised, because sometimes he would call out cloak and craft, and other times he'd say, oh gee, I don't know what it is, and it was really clear. So I'm not sure what side of the fence he's playing on. That's all I'm going to say for that. Anyway, the thing that is good, though, is he does get legitimate footage coming in from all around the world. It's just the narration on it I have a little bit of problem with sometimes. But anyway, in this case, one of his viewers submitted this. So you got a clear line, and, again, this popped up on his channel about the same time that I noticed this, and I just couldn't help but notice the similarities. Is it the exact same thing? No, but there's a lot of similarities here. So anyway, that's all I'm saying. I'm going to move along. All right, actually, I'm going to go back one. This one in the upper left reminds me more of like this down here. Anyway, this was one that I captured. The upper right-hand corner is still from video footage that I took when I noticed a thunderstorm which stayed in place for over an hour and a half. That does not happen in Miami, Florida. This is looking out over a suburban neighborhood. Now, because it just stood still, there was one big quote-unquote thunderstorm, lightning storm happening here, and seemed like a secondary one happening right next to it. And what was happening was, one sent out flashes that looked like lightning, fake lightning though, it didn't feel real. It lit up the whole sky and there was no directional bolt happening. This one would flash, and then a second later, then this one would flash. And then this one would flash, and then this one would flash. And over time, it reminded me that, it seemed and felt like they were communicating to each other. So I thought that was rather curious, so I stayed out and filmed this thing for a very long time, took a video of it. So what I did was slow down the footage and then take stills. And I noticed when I did that, the backlighting revealed some amazing things. So at this B element here, B.6 and 7, this is what emerged. So you see a craft sitting on another bed of plasma. And in this case, it has like, I don't know what this is. Is that just an exhaust pipe? Or it's a pipe that shoots out weaponry, or shoots out another little, looks like a craft is flying up out of here. What does that do exactly? I don't know. And is this a light, on the front of it? Or is this just another craft or orb type thing flying in front of it. Something that's just projecting out and is closer to us, so it's more shiny. I don't know. But down here too, there's a triangular form with some plasma. So there's craft happening all over the place here. And this thing happened to looked like it was flying into this quote-unquote cloud mass, which was really just big cloaking material for these things. If you watch this video, the source video this came from, you will be amazed, because there were, plenty of other objects that show up in that show. Okay, this one, we're looking at the lower left. This comes from a YouTube channel called Fife Weather. I highly recommend you go sub to that one. And there are time lapses that are done daily. I've been following this channel for over 4 years, and there are consistent, I think 4 or 5, maybe more positions now where the camera's just set up. And the person here does a great job time-lapsing from, sunrise to sunset. And you start to see a lot of the patterns going on in the skies. And they're very telling. Especially I noticed in the last few months, things are getting more and more telling in the skies on this channel. And it's just, there's no narration. The person just sets it up and rolls the feed, and you make your own conclusions. So the original in this one example is down here. Moving up with a little more enhancement, I start to see some very interesting things, including a sphere-like object presenting. How is this moving off on a slant to the right like that, and then this darker thing's moving off to the left? It was all getting really strange. So we go up again, and we see this is starting to look more like an object. This is looking more like a pure sphere. I don't know what this is, but it also has horizontal lines. This thing turns all red on its own, so it's some kind of self-illuminating, it looks like a gear. We got more stuff going on back here, which looks like cloaking craft to me, a cloaking object back in here as well. Upper right, we just see things a little bit more. And again, what the heck is this thing? It's like doing its own thing, and there seem to be like pipe-like things coming out of it. It almost looks like a little gear in an old-fashioned clock, or watch. Really strange objects hiding all over the place. So again, this is a fun exercise to do too, if you wish. You start looking at other people's footage and see what you see, because you're going to see craft everywhere, no matter where you look on the planet, especially starting with wherever you are and just looking up. Okay, here's from that shorts that I referenced on that wedge-shaped craft, plus that little triangular object as well. And this is an example how during the shorts I go ahead and, dash outline what I'm looking at. And that particular one too, on another part of the sky, something weird was happening off to the left of this thing, and moving even further over, there's like a pure curve. So that just tells me, of course, there's larger craft, much larger scale craft hiding all over the place in the sky when we start seeing like these things show up. Oh, and they're benevolent, by the way. Didn't get a bad feeling with that at all. Okay, this now I'm just pointing to a former show called Outback and OVNIs. And that's just one of my favorites because it comes from a really great friend of the channel called Yahweh Growls. And Yahweh Growls captured this massive craft over Australia, kind of like the outback of Australia. And that, I highly recommend you go check out that show. And I'll just leave it at that. But the object captured there in the skies reminds me a lot of a scene in The Force Awakens. And I, in that show, make the comparison in the first couple of slides. Okay, this one gets real interesting. Lower left-hand corner. I almost missed this because I was so focused on the shining part of the beams that just didn't seem quite natural to be sunshine. But then it backlit this object. And so going to the upper, above it, in the middle of the page on the left here, I see this darker object that looks like it has plasma around it. So I keep going, keep going down to the bottom middle here, and look at these things. It's almost like cat ears, very symmetrical. And the more I looked at the overall shape, it just looked to me like some kind of manta ray or something like that. Now down here in the lower middle, then it also looked like something sticking on top with like 2 holes and a pipe end here. So in the upper right hand corner, I just kind of traced over what I thought I was seeing. Again, if we blew all of this, smoke and mirrors off of these craft, it'd be really fascinating to see what they really look like. I think that day is coming pretty soon, by the way, because again, I've noticed with some of these cloaking craft, I call it sloppy cloaking, intentional. I think whatever beings are generating these things or flying around in there, they're on purpose. I've said it on another show. I actually had Higher Vibrations YouTube channel. It's like they're letting their slip show. It's like, oops, my slip is showing under my skirt, but then, you kind of pick it back up and it's not a big deal. But I kind of feel like that's what they're doing. They're like, oops, we dropped our cloaking, you know, just enough for you to really see there's an object, but not totally to freak people out by dropping it all together. So they're just, again, slow drip, slowly letting us see a little bit more and more and more of these things, not doing it all at once to shock people. Okay, speaking of higher vibrations, there's just another little reminder that I appeared on another show of hers, and we had fascinating discussions at the beginning, a variety of topics, and then we also talked about crystals toward the second half, and thanks to Mila over there at Higher Vibrations, I was encouraged to even do some shows about crystals, crystal talks, and this is actually 2 of a few that I have out now, and I'm going to be coming up with another one probably in the next couple of weeks. Okay, lower left-hand corner, we got another shout out and thanks to Sharon over at Lake Superior Skywatcher and Nature Lover channel in the area of Michigan skywashing. And if you're listening, friend, I saw your latest. Looks like you have a heck of a lot of snow going on, so I hope all is well there and you are nice and warm. The lower left is the original looking off into the sky, and she saw these, you know, weird kind of structural things happening down here. So looking up to the upper left, I put some enhancement on it, and right away I started to see, yes, there's some kind of craft in there. Looking to the right now, a little more enhancement, working with some color saturation and contrast, I started to see, oh my gosh, this is the craft, you know, emerging. We got shadow below, it feels very metallic. We move over one more, you know, we start to see the upper half, it looks like metallic with reflection on it, and below is some shadow. And then we've got some little pieces that look like shallow cylindrical pieces up here on top. So to the right, I just kind of loosely drew over it what I think is happening. It's almost like a speedboat, you know, where this is the bow at the front of the boat, and that would be like the command center, little cockpit area, and we've got shadow below it. Now what's interesting too is if we start off looking down below, everything's kind of like on an angle and with straight lines. That's what really catches the attention. And there's also like a darker mass below. So we go up to the upper left, there's another craft right here below it. So we have a different color signature on it even. So that's why I put these lines, because I think this thing is like either riding, cloaked, you know, docked to the top of this, like this bigger craft is almost like an aircraft carrier and the thing's sitting on top of it, or they're independently traveling along together, not sure, but see what you think. But look, we even have the sky, quote unquote, happening beyond it. So this is an object coming across with a straight line below. Okay, this one, I just say this might be a case of pareidolia, which is where you start to see kind of faces and human-like characteristics in just random things. But I think, who knows, this could be actually a face created on purpose. Whoever cloaks themselves up there, they create some interesting configurations of quote-unquote clouds and do some interesting things. But whatever the case, I was trying to get a good look at the moon. This is the lower left-hand corner. This was on November 15th of 2024. And I wanted to see the full moon. But all of this, I'll just say it, crap, was in the way. So it wasn't natural cloud because it came from insanely low in the sky and just went vertically up. And there was nothing else like this in the whole sky. And if that weren't confirmation enough, I started to see incised triangular forms going on in the background. They're very precise. Look at my cursor. This is to the naked eye. You could see these points everywhere. So I overlaid where they're happening. You know, if you look here where my cursor is at the upper middle, more or less, you know, you can just see these incision marks making these triangular, perfect triangular imprints, right? And then the more I looked, I'm like, oh, hey, that looks like a face. So I zoomed in. It looks like almost like a cartoonish face looking off to the left with the nose, the eyes, the mouth. So I just traced over it what I thought looked like a face. Anyway, see what you see. Clearly, though, we have triangular forms, pure triangular forms, you know, all over the place. See what you see in that scene. All right, this I'm going to kind of skip over, but again, it was the full moon, and I took video of this one and posted it to the channel. I just started seeing clear shapes. So the lower right-hand corner here is the original, and I just kind of move like this, and I'm going to end up on the upper right and just skip ahead now. But I sketch overlaid where I thought, you know, specific craft shapes, you know, might be. And again, weird little anomalies here. You know, these look like, you know, very rigid pipe forms, and a pipe coming out at us with a pipe end blowing out the plasma material. I mean, you see it, you know. This I even think could be like a bigger thing. It almost looks like, if you know the original Pac-Man from the 1980s, has kind of the look of, I think they call it Ghost, you know, little furry thing that goes along the overall shape. Pretty weird stuff. Anyway, see what you see in that scene. All right, another shout out to Lake Superior Skywatcher and Nature Lover channel. And she captured actually there were a few different quote-unquote clouds happening all in a line. This I'm just calling cloud number 5. I have more of these posted on my channel, I think, too. But anyway, this is just grabbing the highlight of these. So right away above this roof line, it's just a very straight line. I started to see pipe shapes. So sure enough, lower left with some enhancement, this looks like a pipe. And then it started to show more little things. Upper left with even more enhancement. We definitely see it, a hole in a pipe on its side. We start to see a hole over here. So by the time I do more enhancement, we look here, there's another shape hiding in here with shadows, it starts to look something like this. I started to trace over the parts and pieces. What I missed, though, is down here, if you follow my cursor, this looks like a shield shape with a kind of hole at the end. So I think something else is hiding in here, too, at a slightly bigger scale. There are even like 2 holes here that kind of look symmetrical. What's going on? Once again, I'd just love to see all of this when it's come fully in, from a state of phasing in and out of a dimension. Let's see it, coming in and out of frequency at its full resolution without all the smoke and mirrors. I'm ready to see it. I don't know about you, not everyone is, but by now, after documenting these things for over 5 years, going on 6, I'm ready to see some stuff. That's just me. All right, here's another one. I didn't think I was coming on the heels of it back to back. More of her footage, so number 3, I just called this one. We start off at the lower right is the original, and she sees that does not look right, like a normal natural cloud. So then here we go to the left, we see a little more development happening. Upper left, oh yeah, we see a pure point. There's a craft up there. There's something else happening down here as well. Upper middle, look at this. We start to see other little objects. Look at this line, and it's echoing here. There's something going on all under here, right? I just kind of highlight the little craft objects that could be happening at the top. But you look down here, and all of this is probably part of some big craft as well. See what you see. All right, this one is looking at sunset on the 14th of November, and the lower left is what I saw as the original. And again, I've just looked at the skies enough to kind of also sense when something's up, literally. So here we have a strong line creating shadow, and it's on angle. And then this is going also in the same motion. So I just knew something's going on up there. Upper... let's see, upper more or less left or middle of this slide. Look at this. We start to see a lot of activity going on. And I think that if you follow my cursor, this darkened portion, if you follow my cursor, this whole thing is one big craft or a couple of craft, stuck together to make that overall form. Really weird, whatever's going on in here. I invite you to look at this a little more in your own time. The lower the lower right-hand corner has more enhancement on this scene, and look at it, you can see, this is some kind of overall shape, maybe another one docked to the top of it. I don't know what this milky white stuff is. It's either another craft coming in and out of state, or a few of them, or something else that I'm not sure what that is. Another way of cloaking, though. And then just all the motion and movement, there's so much going on in here. And back here, that's a straight line, so there's a cloaking craft back there as well. Anyway, the upper right, I was just trying to capture what is this other. Looks like another way that something is cloaking or coming in and out of dimension. Couldn't quite get to it, but I think there might be a craft shape, something like this green thing. And it's probably coming in overlaid, like in front of whatever craft is happening beyond. See what you see in there, though. All right, this one's fun, and one of the more straightforward ones. So lower middle here is looking up the sky, and I'm like laughing because I'm like, okay, this is still a remnant of the moon, here in the middle, more or less. And I just see, pure points, straight lines. I think this was in, 6:30 in the morning. I usually don't even get up anymore to document the sunrises as much. But anyway, I see that in the sky. Wasn't even looking in the direction of the east at sunrise. This was like at the west at sunrise. Yeah, west-northwest. So anyway, I just thought that was funny. I'm like, can we be more obvious about that? And so, showing this sky imprint of a triangular form. And then we look to the right, and of course, with more enhancement, we see it even better. There's also other craft going on that I didn't call out. But if you want to take that on in your own time, you might find more. You're welcome to take any of these and put even more enhancement on it. You'll probably see a big object up in here hiding. But for now, I just wanted to emphasize the obvious in the front. Okay, I think this is the last one, so is it? Yeah, this is the last one. So this was also looking at night. I think this was about, 3 in the morning, looking to the south, southwest. And at first I was just kind of catching the stars, or actually I think that was Venus, or you know what, I'm not sure what that was. That might have been Jupiter, one of the planets anyway. And it looks a little weird because I couldn't hold the camera totally still. However, very low, here's a palm tree. Here is an object. This was a cloaking object, and it was all by itself. There's nothing like this in the entire sky, so of course it got my attention. So I don't have the progression sequence. I invite you to go back and look at my community page. But up here, you see, I just called out the little bits and fragments and things that show me that that's absolutely a cloaking craft. And actually, I took this while we were looking at Jupiter and its moons, Io, Callista, Ganymede, and Europa. And yeah, then I spotted this far below in altitude, and actually I don't think that was Jupiter. I think that was something else. But anyway, that's it for now. Yes, and as I usually close with a photo of the day and the close of the show, this one I'm asking you to take a moment to think about it, if you like. What would be your photo of the day? What would it be, and why? And I have examples throughout all my first 200 shows of what different photos of the day, different moments, inspirational things, that you might find. What would yours be from today if you think about it, or coming up tonight yet still? All right, well, I just want to say thank you for stopping by here a while. This is end of part 7. As I mentioned, something is kind of really prompting me to get part 8 out as well, so that will complete when I finish part 8. My highlights, from all the recent years, kind of condensing, almost, 5+ years of shows into 8 little parts as a recap. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you soon in the next one. I will be in the live chat. I was anyway. I hope you could join me, and if not, I will continue to do that in the next part as well. So thank you all once again for being here. Tremendous peace and love to you. Lavender Sky Panther. Bye.